Hey, you viewers and viewers, my name is General Red Strategist and welcome back to Sir You're Being Hunted. Time for another podcast style episode, methinks. So, I was thinking, should I do a challenge, something like that, but I haven't had a chance to actually sit down and decide on one yet. And the thing is, I actually need to record a bit of Sir content just to keep the channel going in the meantime, because I am anticipating that over the coming days, after when I record this, I might be a bit busy. So, yeah, things are going on in life at the moment. Nothing serious, don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. But basically, I'm soon going to be moving to a new apartment, essentially. So as you can imagine, obviously at the moment I'm having to go through all the process of things like arranging to have my broadband switched over, stuff like that. So obviously that just means that there may be days where I am unable to record because I'm very busy with moving things around, getting things set up at my new place, stuff like that. So you're probably wondering, God, Red, it was less than a year since you moved to your current place where you live. Well, the thing is, yes, that's true. And the truth is, obviously for the last few years I've been renting accommodation and all that. Problem with rental prices here in the UK is they're very, very high, so they're a bit of a money sink, to put it that way. And so for some time now I've been wanting to actually buy myself a place to actually live, to actually own. And so recently I've been negotiating and I've purchased a flat. So basically what it means is that I'm not going to be paying rent anymore. Instead I'm going to be paying a mortgage, which is going to be significantly cheaper in the long run. I'm going to be saving money, which will be great. But of course, like I say, it just means that over the coming next week or two, it's going to be quite busy, IRL, obviously fitting around work, just moving stuff, getting my furniture, my possessions moved across to my new place, and like I say, getting things like utilities, broadband, etc, set up. So I kind of need to really record some content just to go out on the channel in the meantime. So that means, a little bit of filler content here for Sir and all that, just to tide things over, keep things moving along, so that I've got stuff to basically keep the channel going in the meantime, in case obviously there's any delays to broadband or whatever. Though of course, having said that, if there were any delays to broadband that resulted in, my my sort of video upload schedule potentially running out of stuff to upload, I just post an announcement on the community tab here on the channel page, just to explain the situation and people understand and all that. Things happen in life and all that sometimes just interrupt the schedule. Pretty normal. So yeah, just wanted to say that straight off the bat, just so people know what's going on in life at the moment. People are braced in case there should ever be any sort of delay or any days where potentially there are reduced uploads or even no uploads at all. So consider this a little warning, and all that, for those of you who watch Sir at least. I've actually already alluded to this over on my Propagandist channel in my latest Ruby Volume 9 reaction video. I mentioned, that things might be getting quite busy over the coming days, which might affect my ability to do my Ruby reactions and all that. But, again, it's fine, people understand and all that, they're absolutely fine with it. It's just more kind of like keeping you up to date, because, heaven forbid that I should not tell anyone anything, and then everyone's going to be like, oh shit, where's Red? He's not uploaded in a couple of days. Oh, I'm missing my freaking Red fix, man, and all that. Because I know you're practically addicted to my videos, don't lie. Alright, yeah. Okay. But, I don't want to ramble on about that. Consider that just the public announcement or whatever. So, yes, that's you've got that in mind, folks. Now, actually, what I was kind of thinking would be an interesting topic of conversation for this podcast-style episode, something I've actually been thinking about recently. So the thing is, as I'm recording this at the moment, there's a big sale going on Steam, as always. And, quite a few games, of course, are going on offer. I've already bought a few, going real cheap. For example, I bought Tomb Raider 3, Tomb Raider 4, 5 and 6, the OG Tomb Raider 4, 5 and 6. Bought them on offer less than £1 each, 69 pence for each of those games. Fucking bargain, mate. So I've got those, because the thing is, me and Phil have actually already recorded a first episode of Tomb Raider 3, Adventures of Lara Croft or whatever it's called, And so I'm just holding on to it at the moment because I know as soon as I upload that, people are probably going to be clamouring for me to do more Tomb Raider, which, you know, I'm up for, because I do like the OG Tomb Raider games. They're challenging, but they're quite fun. And, you know, I do want to do as many of the OGs as I can, because they'll be fun, like I say. But, you know, all the games that I bought during the sale at the moment, Jet Set Radio, bought that one. I mentioned, did I not mention Jet Set Radio or Jet Set Radio Future last episode? I think I did, didn't I? I was talking about In the Littlewood and that fan art that I once managed to get into his Jet Set Radio series. Oh my god, yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so I bought Jet Set Radio as a game I probably want to play on the channel at some point, because it's basically a platformer, but it has that really sort of strong kind of neon cyberpunk kind of vibe to it. And, you know, that sort of got me thinking, because when I was looking at screenshots, obviously, Jet Set Radio, it got me thinking about a kind of genre of games which part of me would be sort of interested in playing, but at the same time, there's a part of me that sort of would look at them and think they're a bit daunting. And that genre that I'm kind of talking about here is city builders. You ever played any city builders, ladies and gentlemen? I'm talking things like, you know, SimCity, City Skylines, that sort of thing. Now, I'm pretty sure people have suggested City Skylines to me in the past as a possible game to play that I might be interested in. And, you know, I will say, there's a part of me that looks at those and thinks, yeah, they probably would be of interest. But the only thing that sometimes kind of dissuades me a little bit with city builder games is just that some of them can be quite, how should I say, in depth in terms of things like managing the economy, you know, economic management and stuff like that. And I sometimes look at that kind of thing and I think, oh god, I don't know if I'd have the patience to learn all that. Because I remember when I was a kid, I had SimCity 3000, and I remember as a kid, I never fucking played that game legit. I always used cheat codes, because that was another game where there was a lot of like economy in it, balancing taxes, stuff like that, in order to, you know, deliver public services to the Sims, living in your city, but at the same time, you know, balancing that against other needs and requirements. And it's just one of those games which I think it's basically one of those types of games where I think there's probably like quite a steep learning curve. And I think to myself, you know, city builders, I would love to play them, but at the same time, they the whole economic management aspect sometimes just doesn't quite appeal to me. And so I think to myself, yeah, I'm sort of in two minds about them. Here's the thing though, I do have some like resource management, city builder type games already in my Steam library. I have a game called Timberborn, for instance, which is sort of like a funny take where you build up a city of beavers. And it's like you have to balance resources to do with like wood and water and stuff like this. And that's another game that I first saw over on the Angori Tom channel, and thought, you know what, I'm going to buy that because it actually looks kind of interesting, and I might well be interested in giving it a whirl. Even though normally I get a bit daunted by city builders because of the whole learning curve around economy and resource management, stuff like that. So, yeah, that may be something you see on the channel at some point, I don't know. Also, saying that, it kind of occurs to me how many games there are that I play on my channel, which I play them because I see Angori Tom play them, and I think, that's an interesting looking game. That's the thing though, Angori Tom is an interesting, you know, he's a great guy, and his channel's great because it often gives me a lot of inspiration for games I'd love to play. So, you know, if you haven't ever watched any Angori Tom, it's well worth a watch and all that, essentially is what I suppose I'm trying to say there. But no, that's not really what I'm kind of getting at with this conversation. So yeah, city builders. Now, thing is, sometimes when I look at city builders, I think to myself, if I was to play them, I think I would only really want to play them if they come with like a sandbox mode, where you can just turn off all the economy resource management stuff and you can just build to your heart's content. Because I do love the idea of games where you can build towns and cities without having to worry about resources and stuff like that. You can just basically sandbox it and just build to your heart's content. That's why, for example, you know, I did a whole series on Tracks, the train set game. You know, if you haven't seen my playlist of that here on YouTube, my Let's Play of it, go watch it. It's great because that's that's I think the type of city builder game that I love, because there's no economic management, there's no resources. It's just sandbox. You can build to your heart's content. But of course, you know, Tracks the Train Set game has a particularly unique aesthetic to it. It very much looks like digital brio, wooden little trains and cars and buildings, things like that, which is really charming in its own right, and it looks really good. But I've been thinking to myself recently, and this is where the whole sort of city builder sandbox and the thing that I was saying about Jet Set Radio's kind of neon, slightly cyberpunk aesthetic kind of come in. I was thinking to myself recently, if I was a game dev, I would love to be able to create basically a sandbox game where you can just build a city, but I would love like a kind of city builder which has very much like a neon, not entirely cyberpunk, but maybe sort of leaning towards that kind of vibe to it. And when I mean a sort of a sandbox game like that, I don't even mean just like one where you just plop down a load of pre-made buildings and roads and vehicles and things like that. I mean, what about like a sandbox where you can actually design the very buildings that you're putting in from the ground up, and even maybe like furnish their interiors? Or even like vehicles, for example. You could have some like pre-made base models, but then you can customize them with like wheelbases, external features, colours, things like that. And I just think to myself, has anyone ever really made a kind of like a sandbox city building game like that? Because if there is, I'm not really aware of it. And I just thought it'd be really interesting. Because, like I say, a lot of city builders and things like that, I feel like once you build up your city, the actual buildings that you can place obviously are pre-made, pre-designed structures that the devs have carefully crafted. But what if you had, like I say, a city builder where you could actually essentially engineer your entire, engineer each building? So you could have sort of like a system where you have a set of pre-programmed shapes that you can use. So like block shapes, hexagons, circles, other shapes, things like that. And you can sort of like stretch and stack them and attach them to each other to create sort of more wackier structures. And then obviously you can customize them with certain textures to give the impression of certain building materials. Then maybe you could even sort of like go to the interiors, furnish them from a whole list of customizable options, things like that. Or like you could add signs and customize text on them with maybe like English lettering, foreign lettering, things like that, to really add like things like neon lighting on the sides, exteriors, to go for that real cyberpunk vibe, stuff like that. I think to myself, I want to see a game like that. I want someone to develop a game like that, because if I was a game dev, I feel like I'd want to create a game like that, basically. If I could stop saying like that, that'd be very, very nice. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to make a little podcast style video where I talk about that. Just thought it'd be interesting to ramble on about. Who's having a shootout over there? Someone is. Good lord. And these two are just attracted to it and all. Let me sip some tea. Ah, yes. Oh boy. But yeah, I must say, there is a part of me that really loves sort of cyberpunk kind of neon aesthetics in games. And not just that, also like in artwork, for example. I have a file in Microsoft PowerPoint saved on my computer, which is just made up of artworks that I've found on the internet of things like cyberpunk or sort of like neon urban landscapes and stuff like that. And some of them are really, really imaginative and just they really spark your creative juices to get you sort of really interested in the scene and all that. So yeah, so that's something interesting there. Like I say, I just really like it because often with cyberpunk aesthetics, you get a lot of like very bright neon colours contrasting with often very sort of dark, grim-looking backgrounds, stuff like that. It just makes for really interesting scenes. The thing is, I have some cyberpunk themed games in my Steam library, like Cloudpunk, for example, or Satellite Rain, stuff like that. So, they may well be games that you see on the channel at some point in the distant future. Who knows? You never know. Oh god, I've got so many games in my library that I just need to get through. And other than that, I've got so many on my wish list as well that I also need to buy at some point, whenever they go on offer and all that. Because, I don't have enough games already, ladies and gents. It's the thing with me. Alright, you know what? I think that'll probably do for a podcast-style episode. That's really what I wanted to actually waffle about, ladies and gents. Been recording probably there for about just over 10 minutes, which I think is fine. Like I say, just a short, episode, just a bit of filler content to go on the channel in the meantime. So hope you enjoyed that. I hope you thought my ideas were kind of interesting. And if you do know of any sort of, sandbox city builder games which have, where you can basically just build your art's content without having to worry about resources and economics, and they have kind of like a bit of a cyberpunk neon vibe or aesthetic to them, and they have the sort of mechanics, the high sort of customization mechanics of buildings and things like that I just mentioned there, feel free to let me know, because for all I know there may well be a game of that kind and I've just never encountered it before. But of course, like I say, there's so many games on Steam that there are things that are bound to fly under my radar or whatever else have you. Alright, let's wrap up here. So, Facebook to the links down below, along with the link to my propagandist channel for anyone interested, and if you enjoyed, a like is of course always appreciated. But other than that, hope you'll join me for the next part. Again, I don't know if that'll be a challenge or if that might just be another short podcast episode, but whatever it is, hope you'll join me for it. Goodbye everybody! This one here, is this the one that we need? Because it looks pretty special, doesn't it? What's the deal? Do something with this one. Oh, what's going on there? Okay, it's like a little chapel buzz. Ooh. Jeez, just saw your face come out. What's that? Peace and blessing, Mr. Jakes. Oh my god, that's like the memorial, is it, to Brian Jakes himself? Is that what's going on here? Oh, I guess we have to have a look at this, right? It goes kind of sad, man, but tune unlocked, pay your respect. Oh, look at that. So here's my story, may it bring some smiles and a tear or so. Happened once upon a time, inside the night, wind keens and whales. Come listen to me, the teller of tales. Brian Jakes, Lord Proctor. Oh, this is kind of sad, isn't it?